Good afternoon. Hey, Bobby, Valerie, and Michael. Good to see y'all. Thank y'all for joining. How's everybody doing today? Hello and welcome back. My name is Adrian, and today we've got the week number 4 of the October Stained Glass Kit. The week number 1, we did the duck. Number 2, we did the bonsai. Number 3, we did the little bird. And now for the week number 4, let me grab the little pattern, kind of a little bit rolled up. This is going to be the lemon. So we are going to go ahead and get started there. Hey, Homemade, thanks for joining. And so let's go ahead and reach for our glasses. Now our lemon is going to be yellow. And we've got some, let's see here. We've got some little like leaves. So we've got one lemon here. We've got some little leaves right here. And we are going to have some little kind of a vine thing here, and then the background we're probably going to do is the clear white streaky glass. So let's get all of our glass out here, and let's get our little Sharpie out. This is going to make it a little bit easier for us to determine what goes where. So the lemon's going to be yellow, and I'm going to kind of do these in the same direction. We've got the green little leaves here. We've got another little leaf here. This is all going to be a brown, and then the rest of these are going to be clear. And let's see, I'm probably going to kind of do these either randomly or vertically. I'm gonna try to do them sort of vertically to give it some direction here. So I'm gonna indicate on my pattern that. So we are going to go ahead and start placing all of our pieces down. And so we've got our brown glass here we'll start with. Since we got it here on top, there's only one piece. It's kind of a longer piece. It's going to probably be one of the trickier ones to do here. But if it does break, you can always put a little line in between. It's not the end of the world. It's still going to look just as good. So we've got our little brown glass. What I might even do is go ahead and separate this so that we don't have so much glass over here, because it can be a little bit cumbersome in our workstation. There we go. I'm going to put that away, make a little bit more space here. And ever since switching over to the smaller pattern, back to the smaller pattern, we've got plenty of glass. So that is always very handy for us, especially for any beginners. Now, we're going to try to place this onto here as efficiently as we can. I might even replace this piece because I really want to get it as efficiently as I can here. Let's see, do something like this right here. And I'm going to try to kind of follow the direction that I set in the beginning. And you can, of course, change things up as you wish. And if you are interested in getting any of these free patterns, we have them available in the Stained Glass Mastery community, which is a free community of like-minded stained glass artists where you can share projects, ask questions, and of course, get a bunch of free resources, including that, you know, all these patterns, all the patterns you see behind me, we've got for free on there. And no problem at all, Michael. Thank you for joining us. Always look forward to seeing all of our regulars here. And it's coming up to the end of October, which means two things. We've got our free giveaway taking place soon, and we've got the new November stained glass kit. So if you're interested in getting the free giveaway, of course, join that Stained Glass Mastery community. And we've got the new kit coming out. We are shipping them out already. So if you're interested in doing the November projects with us live here on stream, go ahead and pick one of those up. And it should be a couple days shipping. Normally we ship them out the next day after the order, sometimes same day order. All right, we've got a few more colors here. We've got to get the green and then the yellow. So a few of these little green leafy pieces here. And we've got one more right here. And then we've got a few, oh, we got one more actually right here. Got 4 of these little green pieces. I believe, yeah, that's a little leaf there too. And we've got our little yellow piece for the lemon. Oops, go ahead and separate this. And of course we have plenty of extra glass. Hey Connie, thanks for joining us. And hey, Domestic, thank you for joining. Welcome, your first time watching. Thank you for sharing your gift. Happy to help. Thank you for joining us today. Got a few more pieces to put down here. There we have it. All right. So we've got a pretty nice color palette here to work with for our lemon project. So we've got all of our 4 colors right here. Now let's go ahead and switch over to our free camera. I'll have a little bit of a closer look at what is going on here. So of course we've got our vinyl templates, which all come with the kits. And so I just peel and stick them onto the glass, and then we take our little cutter, and it's got the little wheel right there in the center of the cutter head. And you just score the glass with a nice consistent pressure right on the edge of that template. And what I like to do is separate all the pieces first so that if we're cutting one, we don't mistakenly cut into our neighbor. And that way we can go through, do all the scoring and all the breaking at the same time. Now you're going to notice whenever I do a score, I'll normally just tap that score right through. And for me, that's kind of the quickest and easiest way. And hey, Jeff, welcome, new to the channel, trying to get back into stained glass, Jeff. Hey, thanks for joining, Jeff. If you're interested too, check out the Stained Glass Mastery community where we've got all the free resources, including the patterns for these projects. So if you're interested in something like that, I'll leave a link in the description. There we go. Got all of our pieces here. Got just the greens to separate. And normally what I'll do is whenever I am cutting one of these separation cuts, I'll go ahead and cut along one of my templates because there's really no reason not to. You kind of get 2 birds with 1 stone that way. And there we have it. So again, I'll just do another cut right here. Whenever you have these really kind of sharp curved ones, you don't have to do it all in one pass. We can do a few scores. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and move our glass to the side, sweep off any little debris we've got accumulating already, and we're just going to go through and score all of our glass. And once it's scored, we're going to set it aside into a pile. And we're going to separate all the glass at one time, because it ends up making a pretty big pile of debris. And we really want to reduce the, you're going to have to keep sweeping it to score, kind of like I just did. So we want to avoid that. So we're going to do all of the scoring. This is what we're doing right now, scoring the glass. And then we're going to do the separation of the glass at the same time, or the breaking, they call it. So what I like to do is push with my offhand, give it a little bit of consistent pressure instead of relying purely on my, sort of dominant hand here. And that helps me to get a nice even pressure, especially on those curved pieces. And if you don't get it right perfectly the first time, it's not the end of the world. We're going to go back and grind everything down. And if you don't have a grinder, you might want to check the methods that we have outlined in the community to acquire tools at a little bit of a lower cost. Normally in the form of used tools from other people. And one of my favorite ways to find used tools is through the Facebook Marketplace. So if you've ever, tried that, it's worth a shot. Hey, Fox Gloved, thanks for joining. Happy Sunday to you as well. We're doing some stained glass projects here today. Got our lemon project. The week number 4 of October. Bringing October to a close with a bit of a sour subject. And with the old lemon. There we go. We've got one more. A nice even curve, best way. There we have it. All right. And we can go ahead and sweep off our little area. Now we're going to start with the separation of the glass. Now I like to use Grosing pliers, a combination of my mini and the normal size Grosing pliers. So you can kind of see the difference here. The mini on this hand and the bigger one on this hand. So whenever they're a little bit smaller, it helps when the curves, especially in the curved areas, especially in the inside curves. Now, whenever we have a kind of deeper inside curve here, I'm going to cut it straight through there. There we go. And actually what I like to do is even cut in a few more step downs here. There we have it. You can just slowly take it down. There we go, just like that. And we can kind of work this around. Kind of knock that down just a little bit. There you have it. First piece, we can go through and grind it down. The first yellow piece of our lemon. So you see we got all this debris here. It'd be kind of hard to set your glass on and start scoring. So that's why I like to do it all first. And then we can go back and just separate all the glass, and we can sweep it all into our little trash can once it's all done here. And of course we have tons of extra glass. Now this is another piece I'm going to want to try not to break it if we can. So I'll do a few more step down cuts here. And then we can just kind of gradually take that glass down to the score line until we get it. There we go. Next piece is done. And this piece should break pretty. There we go. All right. So far, these pieces are not too bad. We're going to get to a few that are pretty long and lanky. Hey, Mary Langworthy, thank you for joining us. And what I like to do when they're a little bit too narrow to hold with my hands, I'll hold them with the grosers in both hands. Now, something like this, you're probably going to want to kind of gradually work this score open as much as you can. And you don't want it to break, especially right here. It gets to be the weakest point. Right there in the glass where it's kind of the thinnest. So we're going to want to gradually, there we go, we got it. So I started kind of on this end, then I went back to this side and went towards the middle. And it braked exactly the way we want. So if you're having trouble, try doing something like that. And this piece is pretty small. So I think we're going to go ahead and grab our grosers. Now this is it is an inside curve, but it's pretty gradual. I think we might get away with doing it just like that. Valerie, I'm glad to hear that you are liking your mini grosers. I've really started to like them too. And this one, we're going to want to probably take it down a little bit. And then we can go through and knock this thing down slowly but surely. There we go. Got another inside curve here. We're just going to really try. There we go. Just take your time with it. You don't need to rush through. And we're going to clean all this up on the grinder. So far, not too bad. Most of these pieces are really not too bad. We got a pretty decent inside curve here. We're going to knock that one down a little bit more. And then we should be able to, there we go. All right. Now this is probably going to be the harder piece of the whole set. That's my guess. So let's see what's the best thing to do here, especially right here where it gets to be really thin. So let's see. We can take this down all the way. And let's see, we're going to get this. Now, if it does break somewhere over here, we can put a little solder line in there. It's really not the end of the world. I think I'm going to do a little bit of a shallower cut inside here. Kind of get us a little bit closer to these score lines. I think that'll be in our favor. So we've got this piece. We're not, putting too much force on it. If I'm holding this with my fleshy hand on the other side, I'm not really putting a lot of force in it. I'm just kind of gradually. Now right here it might get a little bit too small for me to hold. But I'm going to again do a little bit of a gradual force. I'm kind of, it's hard to tell, but I'm just kind of putting a little force, moving it down a little bit further along the score line. And it just slowly separates it until it comes off with ease. So there we go. Got this kind of viney piece there. That was probably going to be one of the harder pieces to do. Oops. Poked myself with the edge of this. It happens. It happens. There we go. And there we have it. Got it right there. Now this we're probably going to want to, oops, got a little bit of a gusher there. And what I'll normally do, take my little blue glove here. There you go. Got a fully encapsulated Band-Aid. Because the show must go on here. We can't let a little bit of that stuff slow us down. There we go. Got a few more pieces here. I think the hardest ones are pretty much behind us. And this one, it's got this little tiny point right here that it broke a little bit shy of, but it's not going to matter because all of that would be completely covered by solder anyway. Now this we're going to want to probably cut a little bit shallower. And we can get a little bit closer to it, just like we did before. All right. Oops, and I actually got the other hand now. Put another glove on the other side. Just one of those things. All right. So we have pretty much got all of our glass here into the right shapes. We need to now grind everything down. So I'm going to take my little table brush here, get all of this debris out of my way, and we can move our grinder over here to our workspace. And last time we actually did a little bit of rearranging of the, oops, and I also like to put my little thing here to block it from spraying my foiler. Got a little bit of a better functionality after I moved some of that debris out of the way. So that worked out pretty good. Now what I want to do here, see if I can get this free camera to show you a decent view here. We can switch over to that. So we are going to just grind this down all the way. And let's see here. And for some of these, I don't have it on hand, so we're not going to worry about that after all. I'm just going to try to find my little thumb tool. Sometimes I like to use that, especially if I recently cut my nails and my nails feel a little bit weak. So I kind of like to use that little thumb tool whenever I do that, but it is escaping me right now, so we're going to have to do without. Just taking this glass all the way down to that template. And then after the glass is all grinded down, we're going to put it into our little glass bath here. I'm actually going to add a little bit more water because I want to make sure that we keep this glass fully submerged. So I'll take off the little pattern, drop it in there. That'll keep all that glass dust from solidifying. Because if it does solidify, it becomes quite a bit more difficult to remove. And it's not like it happens instantly, but definitely the first few pieces will be all solidified, dried up on the edges where I'm grinding by the time I get to the end. So these little vinyl patterns are really good for beginners because It kind of takes a lot of that guesswork out of it. And you end up getting a really well-fitting piece, which is always a pleasant sight. Now right here it's very weak, so I'm not going to push on it too hard where it's at the thinnest point. And whenever I look at glass and I see that, I start to just immediately take caution no matter what, because I just know how glass operates. And it can, of course, be very unpredictable. And sometimes when they get a little bit wet, the patterns come off, you kind of have to look back and forth to compare them. And then after I think I've pretty much got it, I'll go ahead and do a little pass over the entire thing. And that just seems to really make sure that everything fits together really well. And this one's a little bit big for our little glass mouth, so we might have to just respray that one. And that's correct, Valerie. Valerie said, I noticed you don't put any water or grinder coolant in the reservoir. Do you just wet the sponge? Yes, I just take this little thing, I got the little hole poked in it, and I just shoot it. And it kind of, you know, gradually applies a little bit of water. And I don't believe that this particular model has a reservoir. It might work if you have a sponge long enough. I kind of just found a sponge that I had from somewhere. I don't even know where I had this from. And it works really well. And I personally don't like to overcomplicate things. I find that perfection can sometimes be the enemy of progress. So I try to really keep moving forward, even if, you know, maybe I don't have the best tool or something like that. So the grinding does take quite a bit of time here, and but not too bad, honestly. If you don't feel comfortable pushing on the edge of the glass with your fingers, you can, of course, wear some gloves, or they also have some little tools that can help with that. They sort of have like a little rubber base that will make contact with the glass instead of your fingers making contact. And that was the tool I was looking for a moment ago. And probably if I look for another few moments, it might show up. But I just find that, especially, oh, here it is. Especially after cutting my nails, I really like to use one of these, at least for that first pass. Because after the first pass, you'll knock down a lot of the really high edges. But which can cut you. But if you knock down the high edges after that, it's a little bit safer. So that's why I like to sometimes, especially after cutting my nails, use the little thumb tool for the first pass. Just makes me feel a little bit safer. Because I have been cut sometimes by the glass during the grinding. Mostly if I'm not paying attention, I'm just kind of pushing that glass through one after another. Which does happen. Do you want to be careful of that? nice little panel coming together here. Alrighty. So not really anything too special here. This particular panel is all filled out into a rectangular shape. So in a lot of our pieces, we have a lot of background pieces that are just void of any glass. And in this case, we are putting glass all around into a rectangular shape. So there's quite a few extra pieces that we don't normally run into for that reason. So this one probably will take a little bit longer than some of the other ones because we're filling in all the space all the way around our main subject with a little bit of background glass. So this is the way that we do a lot of our main projects, our studio projects. And you can use this sort of technique to fill in a picture frame or some other dedicated size that you know you need to make the panel too. So if you have a subject that's a little bit smaller than whatever picture frame you want to use, you can kind of add the glass all around it to make it into that rectangle, and then you can put it in there when it's the perfect size. And Valerie says that she puts the water and coolant in the reservoir tray under the grate. 20-year-old inland grinder, that was required. Gotcha. Yeah, I don't really do that, but it probably would be a little bit easier than kind of the way that I've been doing it here. Definitely could see the benefit there. I'll have to give it a try one of these days. I'm a little bit one of these stubborn people that's kind of resistant to change sometimes. I do know that about myself. But always open to giving something a shot that's going to be a little bit easier. There we go. All right, got our next piece. Got a few more pieces here, just 3 more pieces. And these pieces are not big, so that does contribute to it being a little bit of a quicker project too. There we go. Probably do this one a little bit further. All right. Just got 2 more pieces here. And Mary asked if I ever used framing blocks for rectangular or square pieces. And I do not. Well, it depends. I've got these little forms around here, and I used to do that a little bit more. You know, definitely on smaller panels. I don't really see it to be a really huge need. Now, if you're trying to make something perfectly square, then yes, I would definitely recommend doing that. For these projects that we're doing, you know, for the purpose of these videos anyway, I don't think it's too necessary, to be honest. But I do have them just in case we wanted to really do a perfect shape for some reason. Sometimes I use that, especially for like more of a hexagonal shape or something that's not even rectangular, because then you really kind of need a guide. It's really hard to make sure that all the angles are consistent, and that it's going to come out correctly. And Michael said, an awesome way for us to connect. Not too sure what you're referring to. I might have, we might be a little bit off sync. You know, what you're watching might be a little bit behind where I'm at right now. So I might be a little bit confused there with that one. But we've got our last pieces here, and we are ready to begin cleaning all of our glass. So what we're going to want to do is get the grinder out of the way. And what I like to do is to get our little microfiber cloth out. And what I might even do is get the little table brush to dust this thing off one more time. And we are going to, what I like to do anyway, is to put the rag here. And I'll normally take out maybe just a couple pieces at a time, especially these bigger ones that are a little bit harder to kind of fit in there. And I will start with those. So we really want to remove all the debris, especially around the perimeter. Oh, gotcha, Michael. Yeah, definitely the school community, the Singlass Mastery community, is a really good way to connect with other like-minded artists. So if you're interested in that, make sure to, you know, check it out. There's a lot of really good stained glass artists in there, and it's a really friendly group. Ask questions and all that stuff. Now this pattern got a little bit warped being out here. I should have kept it nice and flat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put something down to really keep it flat. And I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Got a little bit of water on there. And as I finish these pieces, I'm going to place it onto the pattern. And then at the end, we're going to check to see how everything fits together. And if it fits nicely, then we are good, and we don't really need to go back and do any sort of regrinding or anything like that. You want to check how well everything fits before you start to foil, because it's a lot more work to redo at that stage. You got to remove the foil, grind it down, and then refoil it after having already foiled it. So that's a good bit of extra work. You want to try to avoid, if you can, just by simply checking over your work before you move on to the next step. So if your piece does kind of dry on the edges from being out here on the microfiber cloth, you can go back and just re-wet it, and it'll kind of loosen up all that glass dust. Drop a few pieces down here. I'm going to go ahead and actually change this. See if we can see a little bit better. You can kind of see our panel coming together here. And all of the color choices coming together as well. This one kind of goes over in the corner. So this is a pretty important step. You don't want to kind of skip through this and do a bad job, because it is going to come back to bite you in the future. And this one, I'm going to go ahead and knock this down just a little bit more. Everything so far seems to be fitting together quite well. It's always a nice thing to see. Grab a few more pieces from our little cup here. We've got a little corner piece. Let's see, it goes about right here-ish. Little leaf pieces go in there. And this one should go about right here-ish. Let's see. Nope. I think it goes right here. There we go. It's a little leaf that goes kind of through the, or on top of the little lemon, I should say. Oops. Here's the other part of our little lemon. Kind of goes like that. And we're ready for our next few little pieces here. Got another corner piece here. Probably goes, looks like it goes into this top right corner. And I like to use these microfiber cloths. I used to use some old cotton t-shirts, and they work all right, but I do feel like these microfiber cloths, you know, they cost a little bit compared to a free old shirt, but they, I think, are well worth, they're not very expensive. And I think they make it a lot easier. They just seem to pick up that debris much better. And they seem to be reusable for longer, so you don't have to worry about it sort of spreading a lot of debris. Now this one I'm going to solder, I'm going to grind down a little bit more. It's got a few little rough edges here. There we go. It's the other leafy piece. Actually, we've got one more leafy piece down there too, I think. There we go. Just go right here. Okay, this one goes right here just like that. I'm liking this little palette for this little lemon. I think it's coming out pretty good. Kind of like that background glass. It's very obscure, very kind of random, and I think it's fitting for a background here. And looks like, oh, I guess we only have one more little piece here. Just this little leafy piece at the very bottom. And everything's pretty much ready to put together and check out to see how well it is fitting together here. So we'll carefully try to position everything in place. There's quite a few little pieces here and there that are going to be a little bit tricky to make it fit in perfectly. Now this one I can already tell is needing to be, let's see, oh, that's why it's in there the wrong way. I thought something was strange about that piece. Okay, much better now. Always check, make sure everything is all in the correct orientation, because it can throw you off. And this is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. I think we might need to do a little bit of grinding down. Nothing too crazy. I think this actually looks pretty good. I think I'm going to go ahead and show y'all. I think it will pretty much do. Might have to do a little bit of right here on this green piece at the very bottom. Let's see. So everything here looks pretty good. It's just this little green piece right here I'm probably going to knock down just a little bit. But other than that, I think that it's looking good. So we're going to go ahead and grind that down and move on to the foiling here with the Magna Foiler. So let me just touch this up quickly. That's why I always recommend to check before you start to foil. Oh yeah, that's much better now. So that will do. Clean this up a little bit more. All right, move that to the side. And we are pretty much ready to begin with our foiling. So we'll just set this piece down here, take out our foiler, and we can kind of reposition the camera just enough to get a good view. It looks like we're running out of foil. I'm gonna have to make sure to get some more. So we'll take out a little bit, take our little lead dikes here, cut that down. We're ready to begin foiling. And as I take them, I kind of just check it over, make sure that it is not going to have any issues as far as the adhesion of that foil. Okay, so I like to just take the piece, it inserts into there, centers it on the little on the glass, on the foil, and there you have it. Pretty quickly and pretty easily foiled piece. And I think I'm going to take these gloves off because they're getting to be a little bit cumbersome with the foiling here. And let's see. All right, there we go. Make sure this hand's all dried up. Kind of get a little bit sweaty in the glove. There we go, got our first piece. We'll go ahead and set that aside for burnishing. We'll just kind of slowly but surely just roll this piece through the foiler. And when we get back to the starting point, we'll just pull enough to overlap it. And this is a little bit of a shallow overlap. I prefer for there to be more, but it will work. And for these inside curves, I like to take the little fiddlestick fid from the from Creators, and I like to just kind of gradually work that foil over. I have a really good chance to not have any rips. We have a little bit of a start-stop point error here, but we're going to, alignment error. We can fix that with a little bit of X-Acto blade cutting. So that's no big deal. And there we go. Another piece ready to be burnished. So we'll just go through every single piece. And you got to really focus, make sure that everything is looking good. It can be a little bit tricky to get every single piece just right. I'm actually going to move this a little bit over here. There we go. That'll be a little bit easier for me. And I think you'll be able to see a little bit better here. Oops, got a little bit of a obstruction of the foil on the camera holder, little tripod thing. Oops. I think this piece might be a little bit wet still. We've got a pretty steep inside curve here, so we're going to want to use our fiddlestick for that. And yeah, I think you're right, Valerie. When you start on the inside curve, the foil, it's a little bit easier to keep it in the right spot. Whereas if you start kind of on the outside, it seems to slide a little bit if you don't have a good grip on it. There we go. Nice even foiling both sides. Comes out pretty good. All right. There we go. And we are using a 1/4 inch foil here. I like to use a 1/4 inch, and it's a black backing, so we will be putting a black patina. And pretty much all the pieces here are transparent, or I'm sorry, opaque, except for that clear and white streaky gloss, and the yellow gloss to some degree also. But the others are pretty opaque, you know, the black and the green, I'm sorry, the brownish gloss and the green gloss. So the backing doesn't matter too much when it comes to those, but for the yellow and clear white streaky, you can kind of see right through that glass to that backing color. So for that reason, you're going to want to take a few moments to think about what finish you want that finished product to be. If you want it to be a silvery solder finish, then use the silver backing. If you want it to be a black patina finish, use the black patina. And this is just kind of my personal benchmark to whenever you're deciding what backing you want to use. I normally like to use black backing. I think that overall it looks good with pretty much all of the most pieces, they just look good with that finish. So that's why I personally prefer to use it. I think it's just a nice, good, consistently good looking finish. Hard to beat that. Nice, safe option most of the time. And the bigger pieces tend to be a little bit easier in the magnifoiler. Smaller pieces can be a little bit tricky. But you can always use the magnifoiler as a dispenser if you don't want to use it, or if it's a little bit difficult to use it for a particular piece as a, just to foil it completely. But it still works really well as a dispenser for those, those few pieces that's an issue. So you can kind of see through the black backing right here, kind of through this clear gloss. So that's the reason why, since we're using that black patina at the very end, it will pretty much do exactly what we want. This piece feels a little bit wet still, so I'm going to actually, a few of these are a little bit wet. I'm going to dry this one off a little bit more. And even this microfiber is a little bit wet, so I'm going to find a dry spot. Make sure we don't compromise that bond as much as we possibly can. Get our piece adhered here. Run it all the way through. And we'll run it all the way back to the very beginning. Nice overlap. We'll just fold that foil over all the way. There we have it. And we'll get to the burnishing here in a moment. Got 2 more pieces here to apply some more foil. Oops, we got a little bit of a visual obstruction. You start to pull a lot of backing out of these. You know, whenever you're foiling, you use up a lot of foil. There's a little backing that comes with it. And these foilers, you'd be surprised how much foil you go through in such a short time, because they're so easy to use. They really shave off a ton of time. Now, if you don't want to purchase a foiler like this, you know, they're kind of expensive. I think they're over $100 if I'm not mistaken. You can, of course, do it by hand, and I would not, you know, not do projects just because you don't have a foiler like this. But I do think at some point it's probably going to be worth it to get one if you're doing a fair amount of projects. But if you just enjoy the act of foiling by hand, there's really nothing wrong with doing that. And so we've got a few more. Got our last piece here. And domestic down in front. Not sure what you meant by that. There we go. All right, this is our last piece here. Go ahead and knock down the edge with our little fiddle stick. And since I got this one in my hands, I might as well go through and burnish this one first. What I'll probably want to do is get the foiler and the camera into a little bit of a better position. Okay, so I'm going to switch over here while I switch this around, because it's going to kind of be really a lot of motion in that camera from me moving it around so much. And this is all the backing we use, so it's a pretty decent amount of backing here when we get through to all of the pieces. So now what I'm going to do is sweep off the area like I like. Try to, oh, you know what? I actually missed a piece. So I'm going to do this one really quickly. I missed this bigger piece right here. Pull this one all the way through. And it's a little bit of a bigger piece, so like I said, these are a little bit easier when they're a little bit bigger. There we go. Now, since I got this one in my hand, I might as well go through and burnish it. So we'll switch over to our free camera. Oh, gotcha. That was the foil backing in the way. Yes. Yes, we got that all squared away. So we are going to want to really see if we can push this foil down onto the face all the way around. Got a little inside curve here. And we'll just go inch by inch, trying to ensure that it is fully adhered to that surface. That's a pretty good start right there. So we'll go through. I like to burnish the edges first. Try to keep any air getting locked in there. Then I'll go through and burnish down all of the faces. Oops. Gotta try to be careful not to accidentally knock that foil off. You want to try to burnish in towards the middle of the piece. If you burnish from the middle out, you are going to likely knock it off, which you want to avoid, of course. Got our first piece fully burnished here. And no problem at all, domestic. Always, oh, you know what? We actually forgot another piece right here. I'm gonna go do this one quickly too. Sure, it feels a little bit wet. Try this off a little bit. Awesome. Oops, my little, here, there. All right, did it. Go ahead and do this one next since I already got it here. Gradually work that down over the edge. There we go. That's what you want. No rips in those inside curves whenever you use that fiddle stick. It's got a really good success rate, even on the kind of most sharp radiuses. Really does do a good job. I think I'm going to go ahead and do, let's move this around. I'm going to switch this so you don't get motion sickness. We'll see how this looks. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. A little bit more of a close-up here. We're going to burnish in towards the middle. And a lot of people will use pretty simple objects like a Sharpie marker to burnish. I mean, this is essentially just a piece of plastic too. What I like about this particular one is it has this kind of sharper point right here that we can use to get into small areas, such as a texture of glass. So it does prove itself useful sometimes. That it does do. Okay, now where exactly does this go? I'm not sure. There we are. Again, we're going to do the edge first, and then the face. Try to kind of have a subtle bias towards the middle of the piece from outside in, never inside out. And the first time you do it, it'll be pretty obvious that you made a mistake, and you'll be kind of reluctant to do it again. And this piece is a little bit, piece of vinyl is a little bit cattywampus, as they say. So we're going to kind of build this up on the area next to it so we can reference it, but not be obscured by so much of the warped vinyl. Alrighty. Got our pieces coming together quite well so far. So again, all the edges first. Try to really press them into all those edges and faces and all the textures and everything. Oops. If you do it a little bit too hard, it can tear it up. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and then I'm going to go ahead and refoil this area. I think that will work out all right. And it's really not a big deal. You can just re-overlap. And it's kind of like doing it from the beginning. You just have 2 start-stop points. And you just do the exact same thing as before. Got a little bit of this inside curve, so we're going to fiddle stick that. And there you have it. We'll just continue right where we left off. Just bonding that foil right to that glass face. Oops. A little bit of a tear up here. I think we can salvage that though. And I think this piece might have a little bit of a rougher edge that I didn't quite grind down perfectly. So I think that's why some of these pieces are tearing. I think the FID is kind of catching those jagged sort of edge, and then it's just ripping it up. Which is not a big deal. We can always fix that. And we've got a little bit of foil here that needs to be cleaned up a little bit, not a big deal. And that's why we have our little X-Acto blade. Just a quick little fix. And it's a really minor detail, but since we're here, we want to do it as well as we can. That's the way I see it. Okay. Let's see, I think this might be piece that goes right there, so we'll do this one, kind of fill out that corner, this little green piece. Got that. Coming out pretty good. It's got a little bit of a funky psychedelic background with all the clear and white swirls. So that's ending up being pretty cool. And I kind of tried to do them all vertically, so they're not going to follow each other perfectly, but it's going to look hopefully kind of synonymous. Because if you do them sort of in random directions, you might have a few that blend together and look consistent. And you might have one or two that just look completely off. And it kind of throws things off. So that's why I try to have some element of consistency whenever using these really streaky, kind of random orientation glasses. So this one goes about right there. Let's see. I think it's going to push that piece out. There we go. And we can work on these two little green leafy pieces. Just take our time here. There we go. Let's see, this piece, I believe it goes just like this. Got the little one underneath it. Got a nice little palette for this project. And if you haven't seen yet, we did release a video this weekend of a project we did for a vineyard. So if you are a vineyard, a wine lover, that might be kind of an interesting one for you to see. And this project, it incorporated quite a bit of hand-painted glass, and I think it came out really nicely. So if you get a chance, check out on the Mr. Stainglass YouTube channel all of those. That particular project. That video was released, I believe it was yesterday morning. Pretty fun video. And then next week, we've got a video of a stained glass repair. So that is another pretty interesting video that you maybe never have seen before, showing our full process on how we restored a church's stained glass window. And it was a pretty bad vandalism they had there. And it's actually a project we did a few years ago. I've had this footage for years and finally started to have a little bit of help with the video editing and all that. So we're starting to get more of these videos out. I'm trying to get one out every single week. And it's been a bit of a struggle. It's always hard trying to keep these sort of schedules, but definitely pretty rewarding when we finally get that project out to the world. Kind of an interesting thing, kind of a fun thing to do. It's one thing to see a picture of a finished piece, but it's another seeing the actual full process from start to finish. So that's been kind of a fun thing I've enjoyed sharing with people, especially people who are interested in the craft or even potential clients kind of wondering what that process looks like. So I've been able to kind of share that in a real, pretty straightforward way instead of me making a big list of order of operations or something like that. I can just show them a video of exactly what we did at certain places. And we're probably are sitting on, gosh, probably have about 2 or 3 years worth of projects that we've been filming. And I've just been unable to get them all edited and posted. So definitely going to have some content for the years to come. We have about, I think we've got maybe 10 or somewhere between 10 and 15 cameras set up in our facility. You know, meant solely for the purpose of capturing content for the videos, for the project case studies. And so we probably capture, gosh, between all, 10 to 15 cameras, I mean, we're probably capturing a couple hundred hours of footage every single week. And it's all kind of getting stored for the next projects. So it's a lot to go through. It is a lot to go through. But slowly but surely, we're getting through them and getting out a lot of really cool projects. Okay, got a few more pieces here. This one goes over here, I believe. No, this one goes right here. Make sure I'm doing this right. There we go. There we go, we got it. There we go, something a little bit more like that. All right. Got 2 more pieces here. One green leafy piece, and then we've got one more background corner piece. And then it will be time to solder. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the iron here, get that heated up. And of course we've got our fume extractor mounted to our wall here. Okay, let's see here. Oh, gotta drop it on there. There we go. Oh wait, that's not the right way. I don't think that's the right way. Let's see, something looks a little bit off there. I think this maybe goes like this. No. Maybe this one goes this way. There we go. Okay, we got it. Got our last piece to burnish here. And then we can get this fluxed and soldered. As my grandfather used to say, moving along, singing a song. And my grandfather is actually the individual who started the Cavallini Stained Glass Company back in 1953. And he is actually still living. Unfortunately, he does have dementia, and he's pretty far gone at this point. But he does like to look at, it's kind of funny, I'll go visit him, and he likes to look at the, in Rome, all the art there. And, some of the art there, it's nude sculptures and paintings and stuff. And he'll turn to the page, and he'll say, oh, wait. And then he'll keep his hands covered over the page, and then he'll kind of like this, and then he'll reveal it, and he'll just look at me all smiling, laughing, and all that. Kind of funny. Sort of became a kid again a little bit. But pretty much got this project in a good state here. I want to make sure that it's all going to be what we want. There we go. Oops. Okay, we're gonna spend a little bit of time here trying to make sure that we get it pretty much as closely sort of in the configuration that we want as we can. Because once we kind of get started, it's going to be impossible to really. And right now, you know, I think I am going to go ahead and put our little things down, because this is kind of hard to do without it. So we've got two little pieces here. We don't need to make it too complicated. And what I'm doing here is I'm just putting it, since I've got this cutout from before, I know that it's the perfect size, so I'm just going to use that. And I also know that it's perfectly square because the computer did it. So what I can do is just kind of build it up into this corner just like this. And instead of trying to get this thing to work from a free-floating position, look at that. Look at how much easier I'm able to get this so much tighter now. So definitely a good thing to do. And it might grow a little bit out of this shape in terms of the sides because of the little added foil and stuff like that, but that's all right. I think that this is going to, at least if nothing else, get us a really good baseline and get us into a good position where I think we'll be able to work with it pretty seamlessly. It's kind of my expectation. So this is looking pretty good now. I was having a little bit of a hard time before. I'm going to switch this over to our overhead, and then I'm going to switch it back down. Make sure this doesn't fall over. Switch it back to the free camera. Kind of see what we're looking at here. And once we, yeah, I mean, this is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. If we can, we're going to want to make this a nice straight edge. What we can do is just go ahead and put another piece on here and just kind of push it up pretty tight like that. Oops. I got this little baby hammer here. Works pretty good for these little projects. And I think that I might have messed this one up a little bit. Let's see. Just going to push this pretty tight up against that. Try not to miss that and bang right into your glass. That would not be good. And there we have it. So this is looking pretty good right here. Took a little bit of persuasion, but I think that this will pretty much do exactly what we want here. So we are ready to go ahead and apply a little bit of flux. I am going to go ahead and get on some gloves here. Let's see. I'll go ahead and get one blue glove on this side, and I'll go ahead and get my heat-resistant glove on the other. And let's go ahead and get out our flux here. Mix it up a little bit. I think I'm going to add a little bit more flux. I'm using this Classic 100 gel flux till I run out. And then I'll grab something else. Should have shooken it up before. Give it a little stir. And I'll just probably, you know what, honestly, we don't even really have to, well, we might go ahead and tack it because this thing is kind of hard to work on with all the little nails all around it. And you also cannot edge band it, so that's a little bit annoying. I mean, edge bead it. So we're going to grab our little thing here, our little fume extraction device. That's in a good spot. Our iron should be plenty hot by now. See if I can find my little wire brush. Where would you be, wire brush? Oh, right exactly where it's supposed to be on my little shelf here. Just going to knock all this stuff off of here. And I know everyone says not to use the wire brush on the iron tip, but you know how it is. We're just going to get a little bit on here, and no problem at all, Mary. We are, that was a good point you made, and to be honest with you, I might not have even thought about it. Probably would have struggled through, but it is worth it, these little setting blocks. It kind of just, you know, makes life a little bit easier, and there's really nothing wrong with that. And as soon as I have everything pretty well tacked together, because I'm kind of running into a lot of obstructions with these nails everywhere, I'm going to go ahead and go through and remove these so that I can actually do what I need to do. I'll just put a little extra here and there. Another thing about these pieces of wood is that if your iron hits it, it'll start to burn, of course, but it'll have a lot of these like impurities. A lot of that little black soot stuff, a lot of that is those impurities from touching stuff that burns. So normally the solder, especially if you buy a good quality solder, doesn't really have a lot of that bad stuff in them. You know, like impurities, whatever. So that is something to consider. And I honestly don't even need it to be on this little thing anymore. It's going to hold together with just a few little solder joints. So we can throw that to the side. And we can continue on with our piece here. And this iron is heated up very nicely. So it's going to be pretty easy for me to go through and to put on our little nice rounded beads here. And our little lemon is really coming out nicely. And I actually have a little lemon tree myself. Well, really it's my wife's lemon tree. And it is still alive. A lot of her plants have since deceased, but this one is still alive, last I checked. I can't say that I've gotten a lemon from it before, but it is alive. We might have gotten one lemon from it over, we've probably had that tree for maybe 4 or 5 years. Now we have actually had some other trees too. We do have a little fiddle leaf fig tree. It's kind of a cool little tree thing. It's like really more of a tiny little plant. And we've got a little money tree, I think they're called. Kind of a cool tree. And we're on the hunt for a bonsai tree. Well, at least we used to be. I don't know if we're still going to try to find one. But I would not mind one of those. They're kind of cool. Making sure we got enough flux all around the perimeter for the edge bead. we're going to want to make sure that we have a pretty nice consistent edge bead throughout the full perimeter. Even if there's little gaps between the pieces, we want to make sure that they're all nicely filled. A lot of things people have done are you can kind of shift the temperature of your iron if you're having a hard time with the edge beading, I mean. You can incorporate a let's see, you can incorporate some 50-50 solder, which is a little bit of a higher melting point. Oops, and we're getting a lot of junk on here, so let's go ahead and knock this off. There we go. Unravel a little more solder. And if you can't adjust the temperature on your iron, you can always unplug it, and it will cool down, of course, making it a little bit easier to do some edge beading. Whenever you're doing your solder, you want it to have a nice rounded appearance. You don't want it to look flat or have a lot of bumps or bubbles or craters or anything like that. I've got a little bristle from my table brush in there. Get out of there. There we go. Don't want that to get stuck in that solder. Be a bit of a nightmare to get out. So I'm doing one kind of nice quick bead here, and I'm going to go back through and really make sure all the perimeter is nicely tinned. It's going to make it a little bit easier when it gets time for the edge beading. There we have it. Now we're going to want to, of course, do a lot of touch-ups here. Sometimes when there's a little bit of flux caught between the first side and the side you're doing now, it can bubble up a lot like you're seeing there. And it can really just destroy that nice finish you're going for. And what I'll normally do is let it cool down a little bit. You know, we'll just finish doing all the soldering, and then you can go back over it. And this spot is just a nightmare of little bubbles, looks like. Okay, got this side done. We're going to go ahead and do some edge beading. Now, whenever you have a nice flat surface like this, these are the easiest ones to edge bead because it's just a straight line. What I am going to do is actually turn off the iron. Let this cool down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do a few more spots over here. This thing is super hot. It's kind of feeling a lot of that heat through the glove even. There we go. That will do. Rotate this over. Oh, this looks pretty good. And we are going to have to go through and add a little bit of solder here and there to make sure that everything has a nice, consistent, straight appearance. You don't want it to look like there's a big void in it. Kind of like this looks right now. in this spot, we're going to want to fill that with solder. Kind of make it look like one straight line. We can kind of go back to the beginning. This looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. This one looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit extra right here couldn't hurt. What I like to do is kind of angle a little bit of solder vertically, and then you can go through, grab a little bit with your iron, and you can just kind of drip it into the spot that you want. And sometimes you might have to get this piece to kind of stand up on its own. You might have to just drip a little bit extra onto there. You might need to add a little bit of flux, something like that. And this is how, with a little bit of a cooler iron, you can kind of fill voids with a little bit of extra solder like that. And then we can kind of touch it up on the faces if we want to. Now this is the spot we really want to look at. I'm going to go ahead and move this a little bit. Oops. So you see this spot right here we need to fill. So we are going to go ahead and drop a little bit of extra flux into there. And we're going to drip some solder. And if we overdo it, that's okay, because we can kind of remove a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the iron back on. It's getting a little bit too cold to do anything now. And we're going to see if with all this extra solder I've got on there, see how I built up a lot of solder right here? Now we kind of want just to level it out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and knock off some of this debris here. And I got the iron on, I'm just kind of keeping it on here and being careful not to overheat it, drip it, make it drip down. Then we kind of have to start over if that happens. And then after we do this, we're going to go ahead and put on our, we're going to go ahead and put on our little hook. Starting to heat up pretty good now. Got a little drip. Let's see. I think we might be able to level this out just a tiny bit more. Sometimes the more you mess with it, the worse it gets, though. Don't forget that. We're going to leave it just like that. We're just going to try to touch this up. There we go, just like that. Try to touch this up from the other side. Maybe I can drip this down a little bit. There we go. So you see we really filled in that void that was right here. And now we can kind of go through and make sure everything looks good. And we, of course, want to add a little hook, like we always do. Go through and make sure everything's looking really good. This is going to be our viewing side. Need a little bit more solder here. Alrighty, so now actually want to make sure we don't overdo a little bit of this solder right here. I'm going to go ahead and grab my little lead knife here, heat this up, and maybe see if I need to remove a little bit of this stuff. There we go. See it? How it was really hiding a lot of that green glass. So what we're going to want to do is let that cool. While we're letting that cool, we're going to grab our little wire here, and actually we're going to want to mount this probably right here, kind of where that point of that little leaf is. Do a little loop like we do. And this is a pretty big loop I made, so I'm going to kind of braid it up a little bit shorter. There we go, that should be fine. And we don't need this to be super long. This is enough right there. So we're just going to kind of solder this in there. Now you don't want to hold on to this, it's gets super hot. So I pretty much always will use my little Grosers here. And something like that should pretty much do. And what I like to do is to put this off the edge here so that I can actually hold it. And just like that, we're going to do a little bit of flux. We're going to put the solder upwards so that I can grab a hold of a little bit on the iron. We're just going to heat this up and submerge it right into that existing solder, just like that. And then we're just going to add a little bit on top to try to make it nice and rounded over, and then you can't even tell. And now we still need to kind of fix up these little leaves, this little part right here, so we can just drip off some of this stuff. And then we're just going to try to smooth these out as 3 individual little pieces here. So these 3 spots, we're just going to smooth them out, adding a little bit of solder here. Try not to connect them into one big blob, just like that. We can try to smooth this out with the rest of it. There we go. And we are ready to begin the, oops, we have a few little things going on here. Let's go ahead and take off some of that. There we go. And now we are done with the soldering. I'm going to turn that iron off, get some of this stuff out of our way, and we are ready to begin the patina application. And we're kind of getting here close to the end. I do hope that everyone has enjoyed this video. Again, if you are new here, check out the Stained Glass Mastery community. We've got a ton of great resources. Of course, all the patterns are available for free there. And we also have a great community of artists that you can interact with and post questions, post projects. And if you're experienced, you're of course welcome to share your expertise. And you can never have too many opinions on a certain matter. So if you've got, we're happy to have any sort of help and sort of perspectives that we possibly could. And you can really see all of this solder is really darkening up really nicely here. Doesn't take a whole lot for it to really do its job. can even put a little bit of patina onto your little tinned wire if you want. And make sure I get all these little solder drips and droplets off if we can. There we go. But other than that, everybody, this is pretty much our little lemon tree project for today. And of course, I do hope that you enjoyed it. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and we hope to see you next week for the week number 1 of the November stained glass kit. So again, thank you all so much. See you next time. Bye.